Hey, I'm for Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 10, The Patriot, and I was definitely really looking forward to this episode. You guys know I've been loving this season so far, and this was another really great episode. Though I don't know if it was the most necessary episode, this still was a really great one overall. We found a lot more about Director Mace. Not a ton going on with the Ada Radcliffe side of it all. There was definitely stuff happening there, just not nearly as much as last week, obviously, because so much happened in that front. But let's just get into this episode, because I did really enjoy it overall. And definitely there is quite a lot to talk about. Not as much to talk about, but definitely a good amount of stuff. I will definitely say this was one of the more, I wouldn't say filler, but I think it focused more on something we're going to deal with a lot later than something we have to deal with now. But I do love the way the episode starts, because we start with Director Mace, and he's giving a speech in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and officially gives Quake status as a public S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and basically thanks her for all the work she's done, and finally gives her the recognition that she really wanted, and that he really markets her as this public figure, and he claims that Quake was undercover to fight the watchdogs, and we know that's not true. He's kind of just saying this to make her look good, and I thought this scene was really interesting, because, throughout the scene, Coulson and Mac, they're kind of doing their own thing on the scene, but they're watching this whole thing go down, and they can see that Daisy is not particularly happy about this whole interaction, and that he's exposing her to the public. She's kind of just putting up with it, and Mace is the one who truly seems happy. And I think it's interesting the way that we saw that, the way that Mace is kind of getting, his, he's the one that's getting joy out of this, while Daisy is kind of just like, all right, this is great, but I don't really need this. Daisy wants to do her own thing, and it really does stick to a character quite well. I've never really seen Daisy as someone who is a socialite or someone who wants to be, recognized. This is someone who, she does something because she wants to do it, not because she wants recognition for it, but because she wants to do it, and that's never been more evident here. She really is not really into what Mace is doing, but this woman named Michelle Caldwell recounts being saved by Quake, and General Talbot is also there, who I can't remember the last time we saw him. I don't think we even have seen him this season, which is fine, because I like Talbot, but I do think he can get a bit much sometimes, but I liked him for the most part in this episode, and he and Burroughs are passing a metal briefcase on a handcuff back and forth. Coulson notices that an agent is missing from his post on a rooftop, and Quake then notices the glare of a sniper scope. She shouts for everyone to get down, covers Caldwell, and Mace blocks the shot with his podium, then tosses it in the air before the explosive round triggers, and this episode reminds us that Mace is an Inhuman, and that he's able to, fight off a ton of villains if he needs to, and I love seeing that. I like seeing Mace not just be a director, because yes, he is good at that, but he's definitely a lot more interesting as an Inhuman, and Coulson and Mac escape with the director while Quake goes after the sniper, and thus this basically starts the main conflict of the episode, which, once we get into it, is very interesting. So Simmons then is upset to find that Fitz has S.H.I.E.L.D. scientists studying Ada's head, obviously because of what just happened to Ada. She doesn't know why he'd still want to pursue this. I mean, he knows that Ada, in his mind at least, went rogue. They're under that intuition that she went rogue, which we know is not true. That's something that, Radcliffe basically poisoned their brains with, the fact that she went rogue. But that's what they think. So yeah, it is kind of weird that Fitz would do that, and it makes sense, though, because we know that Fitz, wants a job, and he's already this far into Radcliffe, and it is sad to see what's going on there, but basically Talbot and May show up at the base, and fills Simmons in on what happened. Talbot then takes command, orders May to interrogate the assassin, and at Radcliffe's home, he's begging Fitz to let him study Ada and figure out what went wrong, and Fitz says that's not going to happen, cautions him to stay away from headquarters for a few days, and yeah, that would be the right thing to do, but as we know, this is all a facade, because immediately once Fitz is gone, Radcliffe drops the facade, he speaks with Ada, and, we know exactly what's going on here, that this was all, planned out by him, and Radcliffe needs a way to keep an eye on the May LMD at S.H.I.E.L.D. headquarters, because Ada's very worried that the May LMD is going to start to realize that she's a robot, and that she's going to start to go rogue on her own and try to find the real May, because this May, they're trying to get into her head, and like I said, we still don't know what Radcliffe's overall plan is. I think it's to turn everyone into a robot. I think that's really what he wants to do, and use everyone to his own advantage, and that's clearly what he wants to do with the May LMD. Thus far, though, she's not really doing that, and that's something that he really needs Ada to do. He needs to try to keep the May LMD at bay as much as he can. So the assassin, we find out, though, is Yuri Zykin, an ex-Hydra agent who S.H.I.E.L.D. believes to have died during the battle at the fridge, and I thought it was interesting to see it. There is an ex-Hydra agent out there, and Quake consults with May. Yuri reveals that the sniper shot was actually the first phase of their plan, so we know there's definitely more going on there. And Mace, Burroughs, Mac, and Coulson discuss the assassination attempt. They try to dial into headquarters, but they get no signal, and suddenly an explosion hits, and Burroughs, along with that metal briefcase, are sucked out of the Quinjet as it goes down. And on the ground, Coulson, Mace, and Mac have survived, but the pilot's actually dead, and they realize that whoever is playing the assassination knows S.H.I.E.L.D's protocol and planned for them to fly to safety after the sniper attempt, and Mace then insists on finding Burroughs before trying to move on. So they know definitely something's going on there. And I like the way that Burroughs, this was kind of like a rescue mission for him. So Ada and Radcliffe then have the real May hooked up to some kind of virtual reality coma, which it's very strange, definitely, but again, it makes sense, obviously. So Radcliffe's upset with Ada for killing a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and Radcliffe believes that he's improved on Ada's program by not letting May know that she's an LMD. So I do like that part wasn't all Radcliffe's idea, that there is part of it where Ada's kind of starting to act on her own, or that she has a mission. He's also hoping that this longer game involves less violence, but Ada reminds him that the real May is already prone to violence, so it's kind of hard for them to stay away from it. And like I said, you can definitely tell that Radcliffe, even though he doesn't want to believe it, he is kind of starting to lose control of Ada. So Quake, Simmons, May, and Talbot discuss the Quinjet's interference. May volunteers take control of the Zephyr 1 and is given high clearance in order to do it, and Simmons wants to investigate Mace's files for clues, but Talbot insists that he'll take care of it and sends Simmons to come up with a way of finding the Quinjets, and Talbot then sends them all away when he gets a call from the president, and Talbot tells the president that Agent Burroughs had the package and they hope that Mace got it, and out in the field, Coulson lets Mace know that he knows Mace is only after the briefcase that Burroughs had, and then they hear a truck driving around that's blocking communications, and it looks like Hydra Tech, but they assume that it's actually ex-Hydra working for the Watchdogs, and that would make sense. Obviously, Hydra would be working for the Watchdogs. Why? They both want the same thing, which is, of course, to combat against S.H.I.E.L.D. And Watchdogs, obviously, it's because they want all Inhumans dead, and they need to preserve as much, safety as they can, and S.H.I.E.L.D. is stopping them from doing that. And Hydra, of course, they want to go after S.H.I.E.L.D. because of what S.H.I.E.L.D. has done to Hydra. So it makes sense why he would be an ex-Hydra agent. And Mace insists that they keep looking for the case, and Fitz then arrives at headquarters. He updates Simmons on Radcliffe, and Fitz tries to convince Simmons that they can make the LMD project worthwhile with her help. And I like the way he's trying to get her involved here, because this is something that he feels they could really use well. And she doesn't want to discuss it, but Fitz makes it clear that he only wants to do it to protect her, that's the only reason why. It's basically the program that's supposed to keep May calm. Basically, he wants to do it so he can do whatever he can to protect her. And I don't know. I'm not entirely sure why Fitz would want to continue the LMD program. After everything that Ada did, why would he want to continue this? It just feels a little bit strange to me. I don't know why Fitz is so easily manipulated. Maybe there's something I'm missing here, but it just seems like, it doesn't really add up. LMD goes rogue. Suddenly we want to advance the LMD program. It just doesn't seem like it makes a lot of sense. And I get that Fitz obviously wants to include Simmons on what's going on because they're starting to lose that connection and things like that, and I think he senses that, but I don't know, it just feels very underwritten to me, and I think there's definitely more to it, but so far, at least, I'm not getting that, so we'll have to see what happens there. But the program that's supposed to keep May calm and sedated actually caused her to wake up, and she gets out of her machine, but Ada finds her, and Radcliffe walks in, tells her to stop. May actually says she knew the program wasn't real, and Radcliffe tells Ada to sedate May, and she does. Radcliffe and Ada then prepare to restrain May again, and May and Quake get into Lola, and May remembers being allowed to drive Lola once for a mission in Madrid when Coulson had a mustache, which again, this is something that the actual May would know. How this May knows this, I'm guessing Ada and Radcliffe provided her with memories, but May says she feels like something is off, and an agent informs them that they found a crash site, but no Quinjet. So definitely, that this isn't working out as well as they wanted to. And the Watchdogs actually have Burroughs' body and his case. They use a machete to cut the case off of Burroughs, and Mace, Mac, and Coulson move in, and again, things get really intense here. Because we see Talbot, he interrogates Yuri, and Yuri says they use probability to plan the attack. Talbot checks in with Fitzsimmons, and they're having trouble tracking Mace, and Coulson and Mac Simmons then stumbles onto Project Patriot, a part of Mace's file that only a handful of people have access to, including Burroughs and Talbot. So this part of the episode is very interesting. What is Project Patriot? What's that really all about? And that's when we get into the really interesting stuff here, because basically Coulson and Mac move in and take out some of the watchdogs. Mace used the distraction to retrieve the briefcase, and Mace runs off into the woods. He opens the case. There are 2 syringes that are labeled Project Patriot inside, and a watchdog shatters both and shoots Mace, and he's no longer invulnerable, which this was very weird to see. You thought that he's an Inhuman, he's invulnerable, but Mace and Coulson then arrive, and they realize that Mace actually isn't an Inhuman. He gets powers from the drug, which is specifically crafted for Mace's DNA, and this is what makes him stronger than everyone else. It just makes him like an Inhuman, which it's definitely very interesting to see where that's going to go. I definitely think this drug is going to play a big part into the season. This drug that can give you these powers, that's definitely going to become a problem in some fashion, but we'll have to see. But Talbot tells Fitzsimmons that they need an enhanced person to be director of S.H.I.E.L.D. They couldn't find a worthy candidate, so they made way to have one, because there just wasn't one available, and that's how they got Mace. And Simmons assumes that they've restarted Erskine's program, the one that gave Captain America his powers, but Talbot says that there is no program. It's just, there's just Mace, and they did it using a modified version of a formula that turned Quake's father into Mr. Hyde, as we know. We remember how that whole scenario went down with, Daisy's father and everything. I can't remember his name right now, but, he was in season 2, and that character, as we know, became very rebellious and erratic, and that's kind of what they tried to do with Mace. They can't use that program because they know what it's going to do. So obviously they're kind of in a situation here where they can't really use that program. So Mace defends himself, saying that he was only following orders, and Mace and Coulson help Mace over to a ranger station in hopes of finding a first aid kit. Another truck of watchdogs then arrive, and Fitzsimmons and Talbot realize they have to break Yuri, so Simmons brings a set of torture tools to Yuri's holding cell, threatens to use Hydra torture techniques on him. She then opens a cooler with Ada's head inside, claims it was the last Hydra agent that she interrogated, and Fitzsimmons then calls May and Quake and fills them in on what they learned, informing that the Quintagen went down in West Virginia, and Coulson decides to have May suit up in his costume, see if he can fake having powers. He tells the Hydra agent hired by the Watchdogs that Nadir wants case and that it has a cure for Inhumans that's very valuable. This could actually help them with the Watchdog situation, that they use this on Inhumans that could actually make them, humans, and he offers it to them, but he is the only one who has access to this case. He's the only one who can open it, so Max sneaks around the other side. He blows up the comm jamming truck, and Coulson comes out to shield Mace. Now they just have survived long enough for S.H.I.E.L.D. to extract them, and Quake and Mason arrive and help take out the remaining watchdogs, and luckily they're able to get away from them. So Radcliffe then realizes that May woke because she's a warrior and rejected their conflict-free stimulation because she was one step ahead of them. So that I thought was definitely very interesting, and it makes sense too to May's character. She knows all this stuff of her being a warrior, and because of her skill set, she's just kind of above them. So I think it's interesting where that's gonna go. But Fitz, we see them then secretly continuing trying to figure out what broke Ada, and he downloads her software onto his phone. So I guess this is kind of the reason why he wants to start up the LMD project, but we'll get more into that. But then we get to the ending, which I thought this was definitely very interesting. We see Coulson and Talbot argue over Project Patriot, and Talbot says that he was tasked with finding the next Captain America. He delivered a Patriot, and Mace asked to speak to Coulson privately. Mace shows his Vienna photo to Coulson, and it turns out he wasn't saving the woman on the ground, but he had just tripped and actually landed on her. It just kind of looked like he saved her to make himself look good. He tried to deflect, but everyone thought he was just being modest, and suddenly everyone was treating him like the man he always wanted to be. So Mace was really just an ordinary man. He kind of just accepted that he was this hero, when in reality, he's not a hero. He just kind of got lucky in that sense. And then Talbot came to him, offered him a chance to help end Inhuman prejudice, and something Mace really believes is worthwhile. He wants Inhumans to be respected. He wants to be treated like normal people, and that's something that Mace really does care about, even though he himself isn't an Inhuman. And Mace and officer resign and reinstate Coulson as director, and I love the scene. He's ready to give Coulson back the position because he feels that everything he's done has been a lie. Because in reality, yeah, it has been a lie. He hasn't really been Inhuman. He hasn't even really been that powerful. He's just been tasked with this job, and he's done a pretty good job of masking it by looking intelligent and looking entitled and acting like he is good at what he does, when in reality, he doesn't know what the hell he's doing. And Coulson actually declines the offer because Coulson said that Mace is very good at what he does, and he wants to keep him in that role as the face. Because, yeah, Mace is starting to become very good at his job, but as far as operations go, Coulson is the one calling the shots. He makes that known, and I like this. I like that these two came to an understanding here. Because, sure, Mace, I think, has done some things that aren't exactly the best thing to do as director. He's done a lot of things that were very personal and didn't really think about the other S.H.I.E.L.D. agents, but I like the way they came to this understanding. I thought that was definitely very interesting overall, but that is not the way the episode ends. We see May actually examines a wound on her back from the fight with the watchdogs and can see her metallics inside. So she's starting to realize that she's becoming an Inhuman, that she's not human, and Quake offers help with the wound, but May lies about being minor, and that is the way the episode ends. Really interesting stuff overall, but let's just get into this episode and where I think we're really going to go from here. So yes, this episode was a bit odd to have it into the season at this point, because this does feel like an episode that is going to be much more important further down the line, but I did really like it overall. I think there's been a lot of mystery about Mace, who he is, how he became an Inhuman, and I love where the storyline went, that we know that Mace actually isn't an Inhuman. He kind of just wanted to do something really good in his life, and through one chance where he, just kind of tripped on this woman and landed on her, everyone thought he was this hero, and he took this opportunity, faked the story and kind of just ran with it. Not because he wanted to seem phony or because he wanted to seem, he wanted to be deceitful, but because he wanted to, defend a cause that he very much believes in. And the only way that he could actually get people to rally on his side is to pretend to be one of them. And he's done a pretty good job with it, I have to say. I mean, Mace is someone who does a very good job of being something he's not. And that's something very similar to what's going on with Radcliffe. And I thought they did a very good job with kind of paralleling what's going on with Mace. The difference is that Mace is doing it not for personal reasons, but because he's defending a cause that he really wants. And sure, he's always wanted to be a hero, but he's not doing it for a selfish reason. He's doing it to defend, a kind that he's not exactly a part of, but a kind that he feels deserves a lot of respect. And I thought that definitely was very well done to see. I really think it adds a lot to Mace's character. It says a lot about who Mace really is, not just as a director, but I think as a person, and he did a very good job with that. I do think this episode would have benefited a little bit more from flashbacks with Mace, just seeing more of what he's been doing, but I get why they didn't need to do that, because there's a lot more going on besides that. Because let's talk about the whole Ada and Radcliffe of it all, because they're doing a very good job of, Radcliffe is doing a very good job at acting very naive and acting like he didn't know what was going on with Ada, when in reality, he knows exactly what's going on with her, and he's behind what happened. But you can tell that some of this wasn't all his idea. Like the whole idea of Ada killing an Inhuman, he's genuinely not an Inhuman. A human is something he's genuinely upset with her about. He doesn't want her to kill, he just wants her to poison people's minds, I think. I think that's really what he wants to do. He wants to poison the minds of everyone in S.H.I.E.L.D. and everyone for that matter, and that's definitely what's going on with Fitz. Fitz is starting to get a bit crazy here. I mean, I get that obviously he wants to see, what could have triggered what happened with Ada and what could have broken her and what made her go rogue, but that doesn't really factor into the whole idea of him building an LMD project. I mean, it just doesn't make much sense to me. One LMD gone rogue, how does that mean, how do you know that the rest of your robots aren't going to go rogue? It doesn't really make sense where that's going to go. I get that obviously he wants to be back on, Simmons' good side, and he wants to have a good relation with her, because this has definitely been complicating the relation for little bits. But I just don't really know where we're going with this. Does he really know what he's doing? What's his real goal here? I can't really tell where that's going, but I'm intrigued, definitely. I like the storyline overall. I just have no idea really where we're going with it. So that's something I'm definitely interested in. I like the direction that that's head overall. I don't really know if I'm into the whole him starring an LMD project. I don't really know what happened there. Where was Yo-Yo in this episode? Because they didn't really give a reason why Yo-Yo was gone. It seemed like she was just kind of there in the last two episodes, and now she's just suddenly gone. And it sucks because when Mac is on screen with her, he's great when he's on screen. The actor has a lot of charisma and he's a very good actor, but when he's with Yo-Yo, just adds this really fun, cute dynamic to the show that we don't get to see otherwise. There's not really a couple that's like that. Fitz and Simmons are going through a lot of relationship problems and things like that. Coulson doesn't really have anyone except May, but May, as we know, is an Inhuman. So where'd she go? I don't know why the show hasn't made her main character yet or given her a spinoff or something. Well, they kind of did, but I don't know. They didn't really give a reason why she wasn't there, so that was definitely kind of strange that they didn't really give a reason for what was going on there. But what I really did love about this episode is how much it showed the repercussions of Civil War, how this entire season has, for that matter. This has been the most I think that this has been the most connective season in terms of the movies, because sure, the other seasons address the movies, but not in the way this season has. This season has made it a direct conflict. The Sokovia Accords, Captain America, everything that happened in Civil War is a direct conflict with this season. One of the biggest conflicts, as we know, is because of what happened in Civil War, Steve Rogers is no longer Captain America. He can't be anymore. After what he did, there's no way he can go back to being Captain America, so they need to find a new one, and Mace is what they think can be that new one. But Mace, as we know, is starting to regret it. He's starting to realize that he's been living a lie, and I love the way that Coulson agreed for him to continue, because he knows why Mace is doing this. He knows that Mace is doing it for a good reason, and he's telling him, no, you're very good at what you do. So I really like that in the end, he did actually side with Mace. I was very surprised to see that, but I like the direction that that's going overall. But like I said, the only complaint of this episode is that, one, I don't really know if it was relevant for this half of the season, but I definitely feel it's going to play a part in the third half of the season, because we know the third half of the season is going to be something completely different, and I could very much see the third half of the season focusing on this drug that cures the Inhumans and makes them no longer have to have powers. That definitely is going to factor into this somehow, and I don't know where that's going to go, but I think we're definitely going to get a lot more with Project Patriot along the way. But again, we'll have to see what happens with that. May definitely is going rogue. She's definitely realizing that she is an Inhuman, a robot, and I don't know what's going to happen there. And then the real May, we see she, for some reason, can't, this virtual reality doesn't really have much harm on her. She knows what's going on. She knows exactly how all of that went down, so I think that definitely is going to be very interesting to see where that goes. But overall, guys, I really did like this episode overall. This definitely was one of the weaker episodes of the season, but that's only because the season has been so great that there's been very few flawed episodes. Most of the episodes have been either very close to perfect or straight up perfect, and this episode was one of the first in a while that wasn't. I definitely did love this episode overall. I thought the stuff they did with Mace was really good. I thought there was some really good stuff with the Radcliffe Ada. There's a lot of great building going on there, and there's a lot of great hints towards what I think are going to affect the season in the long run, definitely. Not right now, but in the later half of the season, there's going to be stuff that definitely is going to come back in some form. We'll have to see what happens there. But overall, guys, I am going to give Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 4, Episode 10, The Patriot, a 4 out of 5 or a B+. So, alright guys, I'm Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Let me know what you guys thought of this episode overall. Loved your thoughts in it. What did you think of this episode? Where do you think the whole Mace storyline is going to go? Do you like the direction that the Ada storyline is going? But that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoy it. We'll see you guys in my next video, which will be for Taboo, and we'll see you guys for that. Okay, bye.